I was trying to figure out these ones. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Claudio here. Thank you for joining Creators Lounge live stream show. Thank you for joining. This is show number 6. Pretty excited about this. I'm still able to do them at this time. I don't know what's going to happen in as the summer progresses, if I have to push this a little bit later. But for now, 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 Eastern, and 4 out for my friends and family out there on the California coast. I'll say California coast because that's where I grew up. But thanks so much for stopping by at the show. And basically what it is, Creators Lounge is a place to chat and talk about creativity and the creative process and everything to do with just, and not necessarily being artistic, but just creativity. And it's in all of us. I believe we all have that ability to be creative, whether you think so or not. Also, if you haven't had a chance to, would love if you subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe, and then hit the little reminder so the next time this comes up, you'll be notified when it goes live. And also, I do share other videos, tutorials, and sometimes reviews. I haven't done one in a while, so I need to do one pretty soon. And then don't forget to like as well. So super excited about today's show. Good friend that I'm trying to remember. In fact, before started the show, started thinking, I don't even remember when I first got to meet him in person, but we connected via Twitter, social media, and just when he finally got to meet in person, I was like, hey, it was like, what's going on? So many years we do that little Twitter thing where you put your hands like this to see, like, okay, that's you. Yes. So I want to welcome to the show my friend Dan Ryder. What's up, my man?
Hey, my friend. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, it's the first time you meet someone from Twitter in real life. You're like, I remember the first time I met Mary Cantwell. She just looks at me and goes, "You're so much shorter than I anticipated. I don't know why I thought you'd be tall, but I did." I'm like, wow, thanks.
It's that
and you do this like,
that's him. Or you're like, you're looking at that. Yeah. I think that's that person.
Yeah, I think that's Claudio. Is that Claudio? Funny, and then you kind of wait for the next person who like you're looking for the mutual friend.
Yeah, someone to confirm it. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Claudio? Or you're at a conference and you've got the lanyard on, and so you're like, if I can see their navel, I can figure this out.
Yeah, you just try not to be like weird, like I don't think he's staring or she's staring at me. Like,
what's great. And you go to South by and everybody's just staring at each other like right here.
Yeah.
Like this part of the body.
Yeah. Which is like it's almost like we should have like something like up here or something like this, like high level or something like that. That's
right.
Funny. Man, I'm super excited to have you here, man. It's
thanks, man.
It just like super pumped and just look forward to what we'll chat about. And we hopped on a little before, and it's very unscripted. So those of you who are watching, this is like, I had a chat with a friend of mine a while back, Dan, and we were talking about like how like the videos that I release during like normal videos, like tutorials and stuff, they're like very like produced, and I have an intro and almost trying to make them almost, perfect for point, and like you have the high def and all that. But when you do live stream and you do live, it's just like, mistakes happen, and that's just the way it goes. And even like the people that have like tons and tons of like followers on YouTube, and their stuff is like, these guys are like, man, I want to be like those guys. Their live stuff is just like this as well. So I don't worry too much.
Oh wait, so we don't have a script for tonight? My understanding was that's why I wrote those 73 pages worth of I don't even know what do
we do. There may be some silence during this.
It's gonna be so good, and now it's gonna be so awkward. But you ask questions and I'll like fumble around with my brain.
Oh my goodness.
No, this is like it's so well, one of the things, like every time we bump into each other which is at South by, like almost invariably, and I think we've run into each other ISTE too, and we bump into each other South by, and it's almost always the same moment. We're like, hey man, how are you? Oh, good, man. Yeah, I gotta get going to a thing.
I know.
20 minutes later, we're still standing there talking.
It's like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be at some.
I guess. Oh well, that was the thing I was supposed to be at 45 minutes ago. Well,
the other person can do it. They can.
The other person can do it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Be fashionably late and just like, oh, come down with those wires on the stage and like float in.
Right.
So
right. But no.
Part of the show.
Right. But no stress. No stress.
Man.
We just talk. Man. We'll just say things. I'm still getting my my workstation space here is I've cluttered it up to the point where I keep having to push the laptop further and further away. So I'm better and better in frame.
Oh yeah, listen.
But
just it up and all that. So what you been working on lately? Just maybe what are some of the
so the coolest thing I've been working on. I'll talk about my day job at some point, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, at some point, yeah.
But whatever. But the thing I'm doing right now is I'm working as a I've been working for a couple of years now, a year and a half, as a consultant to the U.S. Department of State in the American English program, and working alongside or working for Jackie Gardy there in American English, and creating Creative Commons licensed, open source content for international teachers of English.
Cool.
And so we made I've done a handful of different projects with her, but we made this comic book that I wrote, she edited, and our friend Josh Ailes did the artwork on, and it's called Panels and Perspectives, and it's a comic book guide to creating comics in the classroom.
Nice. I love that.
And that thing has been one, I got to write a comic book, so that was super rad. And that's been pretty awesome. That got elevated this summer or this spring big time. We've been doing this international comics exchange where we have teachers of English from all around the world in the Access program, which is a teacher program sponsored by the U.S. State Department. It provides curriculum, it provides professional development, it gives all these teachers the scaffolds they need to be the best teachers they can be. And it integrates the idea of critical thinking and deeper learning along with the English. Oh, Jackie just posted a link.
That's shared that. She shared that link.
Following. There it is. And so we've had this thing called AE Comics VX, AE Comics Virtual Exchange between ourselves, Jackie, myself, our friend Tim Smythe, who you might know on Twitter as History Comics, History Comics, who's this amazing middle level social studies educator who does all this brilliant work with integrating social studies, integrating comics into social studies.
That's cool. Yeah.
Curriculum. And then our good friend Jen Williams, if you know Jen.
Yeah, Jen.
Who's everywhere at Jen Williams EDU, I think is the right Twitter handle. And there Jackie posted the link, aeglobalcomics.com. Anyway, we've got 32 teachers from around the world all working on this project where we're teaching them how to create comics in their classrooms with their students.
That's so
they're
cool.
working with each other, and they're creating comics, they're making comics. It's all going to culminate in this anthology that they're generating.
Love it.
And it's just been hands down the best spirit filler in this crazy time that we're living in. To just get together with these folks solely around the idea of using the act of comics creation to help their students better learn.
That's so amazing. Awesome. I love that. So what are some of the are students given kind of the freedom to decide what kind of topic, or are they creating characters, or is it more kind of maybe telling their story through comics, or a bit of everything?
So you said it at the end, my friend. You said it at the end. It's been a little bit of everything. Cool. It's been really cool. We structured it out so that if you don't know anything about how to create comics or anything about comics at all, you can still participate, you can still get involved. And over the space of it, we introduce them to, kind of anatomy and physiology of comics. And then we introduce them to the idea of how you can create a comic out of just about anything, how you can make them really quickly, how to make a mini comic. We got into some visual literacy. We got into storytelling and what they're doing for their final project after having done some memoir comics and some other types of stories. They're coming to this idea where they have to, and this is the best part, they have to create a superhero for their country. And then they choose to either have that superhero address a problem in their own community or address a problem in another member of the exchange's communities. So you might have you could end up with the completely brand new hero for Bangladesh.
Okay.
Is going to Tunisia to help solve a problem.
That's amazing.
So it's kind of playing on the tropes of American comics where Captain America would go all around the world and try to help, right?
Yeah.
Or Wonder Woman or Superman or any of these iconic characters that we associate with American culture.
Yes.
Even though Wonder Woman's Greek, that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into super nerddom about it.
Yes.
But it's also important, the idea that Superman's an immigrant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman is Greek. She's not American.
Yeah.
Right. She's Amazonian, but
yeah.
But really, come on now.
Yeah.
Right? We all get it. We all know where she's supposed to be from. So it's playing on that idea and getting them to do some empathy work with each other, which hasn't been hard at all. Everyone in this cohort has just been so interested in what other people's experiences are. And it's just been, oh man, it's just awesome. Every time we get together with them in real time, we do these webinars and I just get to hear their perspectives and hear what's going on in their lives. And it's awesome. Sometimes it's a little oh man, that's a bummer. Or, oh, I have that same problem.
Yeah.
that happens quite a bit.
So is it they do it during school? Is it during school? Do they do an after school program, or is it kind of a part of a course that they take? Or
so it's a 10-week exchange experience, and depending on where they're at with students, they're all practicing teachers, but they can either, if they don't have a class, they can just participate in it as professional development learning as they go. If they have a class of students, they can connect their students. And that's been happening between classes in Russia and I want to say Turkey and or Serbia.
Wow.
There's these, I'm going to get some of the countries exactly wrong because I can't remember which class I remember saying that they're connected, but it's been just super cool. So I've seen pictures of Russian students. I got to work with a class of Russian students. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
And it's all around comics and just the idea that creating comics is way more accessible than people realize, that you can make them out of just about anything. You can have very quote unquote limited art skills, going back to last week's show, with the Grunlers and all the great work they do, and talking about well, man, we're all artists. Yeah. We just are at different places in our facility with it, right? And our confidence. So but just showing them you can put up these, you can make a comic out of basic geometric shapes, and it can be flipping rad, dude.
Oh yeah.
Just so good. You don't need to have a lot more than that. So
I'm thinking of what makes me think of what is that? I'm trying to remember that card. It's I think it's they kind of made a little digital cartoon of it, but it's just stick figure stuff, and you tell a story with, I mean, as simple as that, but it's all about the story. If you can get the story out, then you could always
that's it.
Get one of those kids that, man, that kid can draw. Hey, we'll do the story part. Let's come together. I mean, a lot of comics are done that way. You have your illustrators, your colorers, and then you've got your story guys and people that.
Well, it's collaborative, right? Like it lends itself to
Absolutely.
collaboration.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of participants who have been like, I'm thinking about like asking if someone else will draw it because I really like my story, but I don't like my art.
Yeah.
And it's like, I totally get it. And we're not saying don't do that. We're just saying, whatever your art is good.
Yeah. The thumbprint people.
Yes, thumbprint, Ed Emberley thumbprint people. I watched one of the participants, her student makes comics all the time and made a tutorial video. And it's not really like an explanation video. It's just a silent video of her drawing with this great like EDM track playing on it. So it was like extra great. And she's just drawing these characters she draws and showing you how simply you can do it and how it's just like with just a few lines and emphasizing like the eyes and using, straight lines going this way or that way. You change all the emotions, how you can create gestures, and she's drawing them all out. So you can see how she does it.
Love it.
And you could totally recreate it, but these characters come to life in front of you. And it's just, it's one of those things where when you see someone kind of taking in that thing you're trying to teach them and show them, but then at the same time, one of their students turns around and goes, "Oh, this is what you mean."
Yeah.
And shows the teacher from another point of view.
Wow.
And you just kind of feel like, oh, it's true. Like we're talking this idea that comics can bind and cross these cultural boundaries. Like it's legit. It's not just something that we kind of like say, well, everybody in the world knows Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whoop. Yeah. Yay. Merchandising.
Yeah.
But it's more that sort of storytelling. And you realize, wait, creating a character that expressing emotions, you don't have to know any language to know what that character is feeling. Right. And that's
love that. Well, I mean, it gives opportunity. I think like the really key in this is giving the students that ability to share. Because I would think that a lot of times they would take themselves and put themselves into the paper.
Yeah.
Like, this is my story that I'm telling. They may not say I'm going to tell my story, but they are telling their story. Gives the opportunity to like, just what they're going through, what are their challenges, what are their passions and struggles, and letting others know like, that this is who I am, this is what I'm going through, and it's the way that I'm sharing it with you. And I would love, I mean, this would be awesome to like, hey, I'm going to take a comic book class. Like there should be a class like that in school, like just like they're kind of doing the STEAM, and they have like schools like gaming now. Like they have an actual class for like I'm trying to think of gaming, but esports. You got esports, like a class of like we're going to be creating comics in this class. Something I'm sure people would be like, comics, come on, really? No.
I guarantee if we offered that at my school, you'd have 18 kids signed up for it, which is what you need. I know, like we're privileged, so like we could have 18 kids and people are like, yeah, that'll fly. You can have 15 kids. Okay, that will go as a class. Other schools, it's like, well, until you have 35, it's not going to happen. Yeah. But we're pretty lucky here in the woods of Maine that our class sizes are not always monstrously large. And are doable. But yeah, like a comics class, I think even like a visual storytelling class. It's like a combination of comics and filmmaking and photography. Like just those three, like, couldn't you see that in trimesters?
Oh my gosh.
And you show the relationship. Like what would you start with? Like I would start with photography, I think.
Yeah, I think with photography, because you have I would say like, because you have framing, your composition, and you have rule of thirds, you have which will, because in comics, movies, storyboarding, that's basically comics. They're taking that whole concept. So I think, like photography, start off with that because you're learning all the, those perspective and bird's eye looking from top down.
Right, and you're not at any disadvantage when you've got the camera.
Mhm.
That's what I love about photography classes. I don't know if this is the case for you, but I feel like there's a democratization of skill that comes when you put the same device in every kid's hand.
Mhm.
And like you're like, so now it just comes down to like, what can you do with it?
Yeah.
And like how flexible is your brain?
Yeah.
And how much how gutsy are you? You gotta go climb to the top of that thing and like get that shot, or what, or are you resourceful enough to figure out how to do that?
Yeah.
But you've got that camera, and as long as every kid's got the same camera, like you've put that tool in their hand, and then it's not like, oh man, I just can't get these lines to go straight, or I just don't get foreshortening. Like I can't with the pencil, and I'm getting all like, you can show, here's an example of that perspective that I want you to create. I want you to create forced perspective. You can see, here's an example. Now figure out how to do it with your camera.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Well,
like,
yeah, and they could take, you can basic, give the three, lighting, aperture, and exposure. But you basically show them those things like, okay, go out and just be creative on here's your thing, but you don't have to do it the way I showed you. But you learn these 3 steps, or the triangle part, and now it's like,
oh, dude, what if you start with photography, right? But while you're teaching them photography, they're note taking. You're teaching them how to sketch note.
Okay.
So you're teaching the basics of using using shape and symbol to quickly represent ideas, right? And so all their notes, they're being expected to sketch note their notebooks. They're being expected to like document their notes by snapping pics of them. I mean, yeah, of course, we can also have kids like recording their notes. They can do it in different ways. They can digitally sketch them, like multiple modalities. Yay, big time fan. But just this idea of getting to where they're doodling, so that when you finish your photography, you go, okay, all those doodles you just did, we're going to amplify those next level. So now we're going to take your doodles, and that's going to transition into this comics creation unit that we're doing. And so, the other day when I told you to like write down your 5 favorite things to take pictures of, and then make a color code by just shading different amounts. Well, that was you actually practicing values. Nice. So now we're going to practice a little bit with, and you know what values are? Values are aperture, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to say the dude. That's
no,
unnecessary. But but like that could transition. I could see that like transitioning so smoothly, and then then turns into storyboarding your film. And then it's moving image, and then their final product is a short film. It's a short film plus the comic book adaptation of the short film.
Oh man.
Plus their promotional poster.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Boom, 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 boom.
We just wrote a curriculum. You can imagine how much enthusiasm, I think, for many students that would be like, I want that. I want to be in that class. I would venture that at some point it would get to the point where there'd be a waiting list for that class.
Right.
That there would be like,
I think that
we have to open up another section for that class because we don't have.
Michael Hernandez probably already teaches it. Like we're probably all just like, we probably just describe something.
You're like, we're like super excited. Like, guys,
I'm gonna get a DM from @Cinehead there, and he's gonna be like, yeah, I've been teaching that for like 8 years, and we did it in Cuba, and I'm like, oh, you jerk!
Still the thunder.
I did it in Cuba and in Vietnam at the same time. How did you do that? Because I can be in 2 places at once. Man. I swear he can teleport.
I know. That's
that guy gets out there.
Man, this is the whole. I mean, I wish I had when I was in school things like this that basically, give students opportunity to really explore what they're passionate about, what they enjoy doing, and I mean, you and I both know the structure of school has always been. It was always been for the most part teacher, telling students what to do, but now it's like, all right, here's just some opportunities we have, and now like you guys can choose. And I think I like the direction we're going, and hopefully it's like at some point, it's
Yeah.
like, where you can have like, hey, this is a non-traditional high school where we're going to be offering these classes, and we got some gamers over here creating games, and we got students over here creating movies. We got students over here writing comics, and over here writing books, and they're learning everything along as they're doing. I share with
Right.
you, like, a lot of times is the work that I go through putting together a YouTube video is a ton of work. There's scripting, maybe just putting on some notes, but then I'm recording. I was like, how much time do I have left on the card? How much memory is there? Lighting, adjusting, putting into the Premiere, and then editing it, and then adding layers, and then resolution, and you're working with math and science, trying to figure out. People don't realize how much thought goes behind. But then again, it's like, I love doing it, and if you can give a student an opportunity to do something that they love, they'll stay after school, and they'll keep working on it when they come home.
So we have a digital media program at
Mm-hmm.
our high school. I'm at Mount Blue High School in Farmington, Maine, and we're in the rural foothills of the state. We're the biggest high school in our immediate area, but we still only have 750 kids.
Okay.
So if it gives you a sense of the population density around here, is not super great.
Yeah.
But we're only an hour from Augusta. We're only an hour and a half from Portland. We're pretty close to sizable populations, but in Maine, you don't have to drive too far to get into the woods.
Okay.
Ever. So we've got this digital media program, and these two twins that are just these amazing creators were in digital media. Mm-hmm. And I went in one night. It was crazy late. I'm going to get him in trouble, but whatever. I went in crazy late at night, right towards the end of the school year. And I knew that they had been working on a project, but I went in after we'd done an improv comedy show that we put on. And I went and checked in, like just walking by the studio at like, 9:30 at night after cleaning up. Mm-hmm. And I see like shadows moving or whatever. And as I peer in, and I see the twins working, and one of them looks up and sees me and waves and says, "Come in, come in, come in." They were doing hand painted stop motion animation with their own original music.
Wow.
They had built an animation studio in one of the control room of the digital media studio, so they could kind of control it and keep it like locked down. And it was amazing. It was this whole story. It was the story of the Selkie, like the whole myth of that Celtic myth of the woman who goes into the ocean and becomes a seal.
Oh, okay.
And I'm blanking on the name that they operate under because it's on Vimeo. I mean, it's unbelievable stop motion. I'll find it and tweet it out, and I'll tag you on it so we can spread it to people. But they wrote all the music, they hand painted, they handcrafted, and when you see this thing, there's kids who do stop motion projects, and we're like, that's pretty cool. And then you see authentic animation, and that's what they're operating under.
That's
like, but it's the same idea. You give kids opportunity, and you get to tap into their passion, and that's what I've been trying to do with our Success and Innovation Center. Is just give as many different kids as many different opportunities to explore as many different pathways, and get them started. It's not the end. It's just infuse that love of creating to show what you understand and what you know. And if you can turn that into a trade, if you can turn that into your vocation, if you can turn it into the hobby that keeps your spirit alive while you do the other thing that makes you money, all of that is a win. Yeah. All of that is like building your social emotional health and your mindfulness and your sense of being and purpose. Like, it's hard to go wrong. Damn. Right.
As you were talking about them being in the room, you were checking out at night or something like that. and I know a lot of universities have these, maker spaces. They have areas dedicated, and they're open 24 hours, which I was like, that's
Right.
pretty cool. And I'm a night owl. There's times I'm up till like 1 a.m. doing stuff just because it's quiet and everyone's already gone to sleep. And
it's okay when you mean stuff. I get it. Call of Duty. I do the same thing. It's fine. No judging. No judging.
No judging.
For some people, it might be Animal Crossing. No judging.
No
for
judging.
other people paying attention, it might be fishdom.
Fishdom.
Yeah. Apparently, I know Jackie Gardy's watching this at the moment. We saw her earlier, and apparently that is the greatest game ever. I have yet to experience
which game?
Fishdom.
Fishdom.
Not Kingdom, but Fishdom. Yes. It has.
My curiosity has been.
Once you go fishdom, you'll never try another game again.
And she says she's a master.
She's a master.
Oh my goodness, man! But
anyway, you were saying
that would be amazing to have. I've always thought that is awesome. I mean, first of all, it's awesome the universities have them. But I was like, man, if we can bring them into public schools, and I know a lot of them are doing it, but the 24-hour thing, maybe I don't know, legality issues with it or not, but that would be that's hey, someone wants to stay up there late and work on something.
That's it,
they
right?
Find a way to do it, but that would be cool.
I get you got to supervise, minors, right?
Yeah,
I get it. I'm not saying we should just let kids come and go whenever they want, right? Yeah. However, I do think there's something to be said, especially in rural communities, where you almost always, not all, but you most frequently have a custodian on staff on duty at night, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you usually have someone else, or you have local community organizations that could potentially be providing service in that space in the evenings and at night. Now, I'm not saying run through the whole building, but you often see adult education programs that happen in schools, right?
Yeah.
And I've always kind of wondered, what if we had those studios open? And I get I totally get the argument. I don't want some rando person touching my stuff, right? So you have a designated space, you have a designated location. Most of the time you've got a food court or a cafeteria. How hard would it be to have this community collection of tools or creativity devices that are brought out only for that evening maker space, but you do it inside of a building that's already heated, that's already staffed, that's already paying the electric. Mm-hmm. You're not using any more than what is already pre-existing. Right. And if you could get some community partners involved to help with things like the management side, it feels like there are spaces that are sitting there. Mm-hmm. I think they should be using, I think there's some ways that we could creatively think about sheltering people.
Yeah.
If you don't have steady heat in your home, you don't have steady food. We're always in rural communities. It's always tough to find shelters and create shelters. Some schools, if you got an elementary school and the last kids leave at 5 and no kids are coming in until 8 the next morning, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
If you got a high school, last kids, let's say the last people in the building are there, say it's a game night or something, basketball season, you're there maybe till 10.
Yeah.
And then you got from 10 until you got till about 6 the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big swath of time.
Yeah.
That you could potentially be offering, a heating space, a warming space.
Yeah.
I get it. Somebody's watching this going have you thought about the answer is yes, I've thought about it. Do I have an answer for it? No, but I have thought about it.
You know what? You're throwing out the ideas that this, what if, and then someone's takes the what if and what if we do this? It sparks an idea for someone to start doing it somewhere, and then
right. So it's just asking that what if,
sparks it, and also we heard these two guys, we thought they were crazy and they're talking about this, but then we started thinking, what if, and
right,
and then you're and then what if, and then you try it and then it works, and it doesn't, but you try it,
exactly.
You never know, but oh man. So I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
I got your book, and I just kind of been flipping through it.
Yep.
And man, it is, from what I've already kind of looked through. Like, this is a great. But if for those of you who I'm gonna give a shout out to your book right there. Intention, critical creativity in the classroom, and it's Amy, and let me know if I say this right. Burval.
Yep, Amy Burval.
Okay. This the intention. I love the first of all intention. Purposeful. And in it here, as I was scrolling through, there was a section talking about the skateboarder, and it kind of, for me, I was like, huh. And then because you talk about, skateboarding, it's a lot like jazz. It's you're taking, you've learned something. You've equipped a student or as yourself a learner, and you've taken something that, you talked about the remixing of things. And,
Right.
I shared with you my drum set. I've been playing for 30 something years, and there's so many influences I've had of musicians from different famous bands, and I tell people, "Oh, I know that band. You listen to that band? They have an amazing drummer. That's why, like, most of the times I'll listen to these bands because of drummers, and they're like, I didn't know you like that type of music. Well, they got a killer drummer on that. It's like, and they're like, look at me like, huh. And so, but so many influences that I had that, you try to emulate, but at the same time, then what it is like, well, I'm going to take what they've, I've learned from them and their creativity, and like, I'm going to take it and kind of like take a little spin on it. So one of my favorite drummers passed away back in the 90s. Jeff Porcaro played for Toto, which Toto play for so many different, they back so many different.
Well, I was going to say Toto. People think Toto is just Africa, and just like,
yeah,
guys,
no,
they played a million records.
Oh, really? And they played for so many different artists.
Every one of those guys played for everybody.
And you're listening to like, oh, that's Toto playing. What? No, it's not. The studio album, but so Jeff Porcaro,
if you're listening to Africa, you're hearing the same guitar player as you're hearing on Billie Jean.
Yes, yeah. Billie Jean, yep. So Jeff Porcaro for the Rosanna song talked about, here's what I did. When you hear him play it, then he tells you where he got it from. And I'm like, he remixed John Bonham from Full in the Rain, Bernard Purdy, and then oh god, I forget what the other one. It's like he took three and then blended and is like, here's what I came up with. And then you're like sitting there, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
Like the whole remixing it. And I think that's where people get stuck with creativity. Is like, I can't create something. There's like, but I like the approach you took. Is like, well, it's about remixing too. It's like taking something and kind of like build upon it.
And that's Amy's. So Amy actually wrote most of the words in that section. Like, it's kind of cool. Like when we wrote the book, we each kind of took a chunk and kind of made like the first pass of that chunk, and then we each went in and like, oh, let's tweak this, and oh, we should add this a little bit in. We should add that little bit in. And one of the reasons I know that, and I remember that Amy wrote that particular part. One, she grew up in Southern California in the 80s, in the heart of skateboard country. But also, that's our friend Sean Zebarth, cool. Mr. Zebarth on the old Twitters, like skating. That's a picture of him in that part of the book. And I know she reached out to him, was like, that's so cool. I really want a picture of you skating in their book. And
that's cool.
Which is super cool. But yeah, just this idea that everything is a process of learning a remix and growing, and that's kind of a classic. That's not like almost a cliche in creativity land, right? Everything is remix, but it's super true. Like there's only so many stories. There's only so many places that things started from, right? Those essentials, those core, and we drive ourselves crazy trying to create something new. And I'll tell you, like, I've been living and breathing this right now, going super full on nerd. And I love it because I'm proud of my nerddom. I've just gotten into Dungeons and Dragons in the past several months. and I'm serving as the game master, the dungeon master for the first time right now with a group. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I wanted to try it. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking the couple of times I've played and taking the things that I remember from that and going, all right, how can I put my own spin on it? How can I put my take on that same premise so it feels unique? It doesn't feel like I'm just reskinning it, you know, like I'm not just putting like different characters on it or different personalities, but it's the exact same thing. But it's like, oh wait, what if instead of that character they encounter being a jerk, they encounter that character being like super helpful? Or what if when they go into that situation, they have a problem, the problem doesn't come from something external, the problem comes from something within one of them.
Yeah.
Right. And then I find the things that I like in story and that I get excited to try to work into storytelling, which is usually interpersonal conflicts or problems of that nature, rather than like plot twists or devices. I like stuff that's character driven. So how can I take those elements and work them in? And that's what's been working for me. And it has me so flippin' excited because I'm also like working in all these references and these allusions. And then I'm taking this little nugget, like they're going to encounter, holy cow, is my daughter screaming in the background? Can you hear that?
I didn't hear it. No.
Okay, good. Because like, she's just like screaming in the other room. Anyway, she pays no attention to what her father does.
Are you like home brewing it? The D&D?
A little bit.
Okay.
It's 5e. It's 5th edition. I'm pretty much following the rules. My best friend is playing in it, and he's helping guide it. I don't know if she wants me to out her on live, but we got some people from the internet that are participating. But my best friend is dungeon master. Well, he has done it before, so he's kind of guiding things along. But it's like a combination of homebrew and it's my own story though. It's my own adventure. It's my own stuff. Like
that's cool.
I'm using the rules because I couldn't like pull out a package. It's just like curriculum.
Yeah.
I can't pull those things out and go, all right, we're gonna do chapter 1, 2, 3. You know, the irony of the book is like we wrote those and we deliberately called them. We don't call them lesson plans. We call them pathways.
Pathways, yeah.
And that's very deliberate, very intentional, hence name of book, intention. But we do that on purpose because neither Amy or I would ever pick up a lesson plan and follow a lesson plan from point A to point Z and call it good. Like that just not the way either of us work. But what we will do over and over and over again, and our friendship was built on this, is, oh, that's a cool idea. What if, just like we were doing a few minutes ago, right? And then you just start, and when you see that lesson plan, or you just see like, so what is the stuff you use? Oh, wait, that's the stuff you use. And what's the thing? I'm just going to flip right to the thing that they make. Oh, they make that. Oh, I know what if we use this instead?
Do it this way. Yeah.
Right. And what if we just flip it inside out? So we want people who read the book not to follow the thing by prescription. We want them to like see that as one option. Here's one way you could do this. But the heart of it, if kids are making things with purpose and intention, and they can express those intentions, and they can express what they were hoping to accomplish, well, then we've lifted up all of that confidence problem, and we've taken that weight and worry about, is the thing I made good enough?
Yeah.
And just lifted it off and said, my friend, I'm not concerned about you becoming an artist. I'm concerned about you being a communicator and a problem solver and someone who can express that which they had in here to someone else. Now, it may not be art that allows you to do that. You may need to find a different path to doing that, but you're going to practice the art because art is amazing and that's important.
Yes.
But what's going to happen is you're going to explain to me exactly what you were trying to do and where you wanted things to go. So when I assess your work, I'm not assessing the art. I'm assessing the idea. I'm assessing your thinking process. And the other piece that lifts off, that stress, you take that teacher who says, but I don't know how to assess art. And you go, don't worry about it. We got art teachers for that. We got Matt and Laura to take care of that, right?
Yeah.
We got Claudio he's gonna make sure that your photography doesn't suck. He's gonna let you know when that edit, that weird wipe you put in there does not work.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna let you know, right? But what we're focusing on, you've only got this amount of time, you only have this many resources. What did you do in that time? Where were you going with it? And why did you do what you did?
Yeah.
And that conversation, you get them thinking in that meta place. And that's that deeper thinking that, that's when you know if a kid got it.
Yeah.
And I can just sit down with a kid who hasn't done 4 assignments for me and is driving me crazy. And if I just get him talking about, well, what would you have done? Right? And you're sitting there and you're listening. You're like, you just told me. Now, unfortunately, the school won't allow you to just tell me and me put that in the grade book.
Yeah.
Like, I need some tangible evidence too.
Yeah.
But if you just give me a piece of what you just described, then I can feel confident, standards-based in a standards-based system saying, can this student do this? Well, the student can't do this part, but the student is very much aware of this and this and this. They didn't show it to me by doing this piece. That's the importance of not having these sausage grade books.
Yeah.
Right. Because it all intersects. And as we try to put that in the book too, right? Like the importance of separating the types of knowledge that they're expressing and separating the content from the form. Are you assessing the form or are you assessing the content? You can assess both if you want. But if you narrow yourself to only being able to assess content that comes in forms that you're comfortable assessing, you are missing out on all sorts of opportunity for your students.
Yeah. That's it's you're basically just looking at the end instead of the how did I get there? Yeah,
you're only looking at the end, right? And if you're only looking at the end,
everyone's here. I just want to see what's over here. So
right?
That basically has been what it's been. Is like, well, I don't care how you did all this. I just want to know that it's up here. What's at the end? Like, and it's that's.
Imagine what we would know about students if we were able to assess their scratch sheets from standardized tests. Imagine what we would discover.
Yeah.
If there was a system to be able to look at their note paper, look at their notes and go, oh man, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They erased wrong.
Yeah.
And that put the 1 in the wrong place. Just think about
that's
how often unpacking where they thought they were going. And that's where also you find out. I mean, math teachers will tell you that's when you find out whether or not they really get it, is when they sit down with them and they have them walk them through their process. How did you get here? I don't get it. I don't understand your math. Well, this is what I was trying to do. And that took me to this and that took me. And that's like, wait, you did what?
Yeah.
You thought what about how numbers work?
Yeah. It's because into the and that's the only way you can get into what someone is thinking, what someone is, understanding. Is sometimes it's just a matter of just asking the questions like, why did you do that? And can you
right,
exactly, like, walk me through. It's almost like maybe it's an analogy, but an athlete, a pitcher is trying to, you're not getting the strikes in there, but it's like, what is the mechanics, to like, you want the strike, but at the same, what is the mechanic that gets that to happen? If are they stepping off? Are they too much leaning to this way? And like, and then have the athlete themselves internalize and feel like, well, this is what I'm doing. It's like, so what can you do different? Well, I wonder if I shift this way, what will it? It may add a couple of miles to my fastball, and then you're like, well, let's try it. Boom! Oh my gosh! All right.
I was gonna say, does anybody think for a moment that Justin Verlander hasn't spent a lot of time, closely examining?
Oh God.
His, video of every pitch.
Oh yeah.
No major league pitcher has ever improved by only looking at whether or not they threw a strike.
Yeah.
right? They like it wouldn't work. But we do it to kids all the time.
Yeah.
Like every day, you say, "Well, we're concerned with outcomes." Well, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
like it's kind of funny that if you're concerned with outcomes, you should really be concerned with how you get to the outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a proponent of formative assessment and summative assessment and distinguishing the two somewhat. But I'm also a believer that a collection of formative assessments that's accompanied by an explanation of the intentionality and the learning gained from that could be just as strong a piece of evidence as a single summative demonstration. Right? Like you get these and a lot of the stuff that's in the book are like really designed to be formative. They're not really designed to be summative assessments, but any one of them could be if you just made them part of a collection.
Yeah.
If you said, all right, you're going to express it through 3 of these ways. You're going to explain to me what each shows, what's this color palette? How's this color palette project?
Yeah.
How does that really show what you know? Okay. And then you did this playlist of a life. Okay. How does that show? And then you combine that with this other one that's on human emojis. All right. What's that? Okay. How do I triangulate these things? Oh, holy cow. You just created a product that intersects, right? All these things. How can I say you don't know?
Yeah.
This concept. And instead of spending 6 weeks building a project that's going to be a dumpster project that just gets thrown away, we just in 2 weeks created 3 robust pieces of evidence. You can move on to the next standard.
Yeah.
Because the kid knows it. Like it's just a different way of looking at it's a different way of looking at how we perceive formative assessment.
Absolutely.
And how we define it too. Formative assessment doesn't mean checklists at the beginning of class or 3 quick questions. It doesn't have to. Like, sure, those exist, but come on. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah. And it's just a matter of it's mindset of people just trying to shift that thinking where it's like what we're talking about, it's the journey. It's the creative process, the whole way to get there to where we're at. And man, I've been enjoying this chat.
Me too, man. I just looked at the time and I was like, oh dang!
I was like, holy cow, this has been so. Maybe shifting gears a bit and getting a little nerd, because I wanted to share that. First of all, like I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Yes, I am.
And so I want to share a couple things in relation to into what we've been talking about. And but so I have got I'm gonna see if I can get this up here. I just shot the cannon off right. But this right here. And I don't know if you can see back. Oh, it's probably out of the picture there, but I've got like my favorite character up there, just that right there.
Boba Fett. So that's an 83 original, isn't it?
Oh, so it's not an original. So I wanted to show you that. I was like, it looks so off. Like, so what I forgot how I started to look for it. Boba Fett's like my favorite characters. The whole mystery behind him, and
right.
I'm fascinated by George Lucas, all these characters that like you're doing the comics with the kids, and like all of a sudden they're recreating these characters and how the mystery behind it. But I started looking for it because here's what I wanted to share with you about the toys that I had. And you said you had a Millennium Falcon. So my brother and I had all these. We had a ton of Star Wars stuff, and I kick myself now. Like if I can go back and talk to myself, don't get rid of this. Don't make that decision. But anyways, a teenager, I'm like, I don't want these things anymore. We went to a flea market. We had the Millennium Falcon, we had the AT-AT, we had the twin pod car from the twin.
Oh yeah,
the Bespin twin pod and
the cloud cars. Yeah,
cloud car. We had a ton of figures, everything, and
so good.
And then so we're like, okay, so we went to the flea market. My dad, we sold it all. We made like $300. This was like, I forget what 87. I don't remember. And so then my brother went to the store and or went to go get some food and come back, and then we're at home, and it's like, hey, so where's the money? It's like, you had it. Like, I don't have the money. What happened? So I think what happened at some point, and he's probably gonna be upset if I'm sharing this story, where like he lost the money, and then we don't have the toys. So it was one of those like, oh my god, are you kidding me? We sold all that stuff. So and we remember the guys that they're like older guys that bought everything, and we also didn't have any of the money. So we're like, really, we don't have any of the money. So I've been going through trying to like recollect like a lot of stuff.
Nice.
So there's a store here in Fort Worth that has like the in the box Boba Fett. I don't have $4,000 to buy that thing. So I'm like,
oh, you don't? You don't have $400 for a slave one just kicking around?
I would have to sound like my drum set or a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But
oh, hold on a second. Let me check my other pants.
Yeah. So I went online and then found, I forgot what website I found, but some guy has, maybe illegal, I don't know. It was shipped from China, I think. But some guy has the molds from the original Kenner toys.
Right.
He paints them and everything. So I ordered it. I forgot how long it took. And came in. I was like, holy cow, this thing looks like the authentic toy. I'm like, yeah. So do you get a kick out of that?
Did you say it launched the rocket out of the back?
The rocket.
So they made one that launches the rocket because that was what they never that was the thing that people always wanted, but it was always stuck inside.
Well, I think what happened was it was one of those mail-in ones.
Mail-aways, yeah.
Mail-aways, and here it is. I found the rocket. Yeah, it shoots and everything, but
nice.
But I guess because it was what do you call it? Hazard or whatever, a choking hazard. They released a ton of them, but man, I'm a huge. I love the Star Wars.
Did you ever see the big one that they had?
Yes.
That had it had the grappling hook and the whole bit.
Oh. There's a store out in California that TS Rockets, I think they have the big one like that. It's like $250. I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy a lens instead, you know.
so the Millennium Falcon I've got is actually my wife's cousin's that he put in my safe care, along with there's a snow speeder. Oh. There's a part of the Death Star. The trash compactor is in there.
Oh yes, the trash compactor.
There's a land speeder. There's and I had it all growing up too. Like I had it all, and same thing. And then my Star Wars is like my favorite, kind of besides just all superhero comics.
Yeah.
Star Wars is way up there. But then my favorite toy of all time are G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah.
And so every time I find a G.I. Joe anywhere for $1, I don't care which one it is. If it's like together all in one piece, and I still got like a shoebox full.
So do you have Snake Eyes
of the originals? I do. I do have Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
And I love Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, the two ninjas, right?
Everyone's like, what are these guys talking about?
My favorite was Beachhead. Mostly because I really liked his accent in the cartoon.
I'm trying to remember.
He had like a southern accent. He was the ranger.
Okay,
he's wearing the hood and
that's right.
the balaclava.
Yeah.
And it's just you can just see his eyes.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And he's got that southern it's not southern drawl, it's like Louisiana gumbo.
Okay.
Kind of like you gonna do what I say.
Yeah.
Like that southern foghorn leghorn almost. Georgian accent.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so good. And I just love that character. So when I go to comic shows and stuff, when I'm not sure if I want to get a commission, I almost always ask for a Beachhead.
Oh my god.
Beachhead or Shadowcat from X-Men. But I just Beachhead's the best. It's just this goofy, weird little mini obsession I have with this one character. But I just love G.I. Joe. I'm such a freaking child. I'm a man boy.
That's exactly. My wife's like, you guys never grow up, really. You know,
I'm surrounded by Lego men with right now, all within arm's reach. It's crazy.
Right. We're talking ridiculous. About Lego. All right, here you go.
Oh, nice. There they are, the
They're
Mandalorians.
Boba Fett Lego, man. I found the Boba Fett Lego. Like, I'm like, yeah. So, man. So before we let, I wanted to share this too. So Comic-Con. I grew up in San Diego. So I used to go to Comic-Con. I used to be able to
Like
go
when it was
walk
about
up.
comics.
Yeah, exactly. I used to be able to walk up and register the same day and attend Comic-Con before they started doing the whole lottery thing. And before it got like, I want to say it almost got too Hollywoody, but still cool to see all that Hollywood stuff. But
Yeah.
so one of the times I went, we were out there. There's I don't know if you've been to Comic-Con before, but
I've been once. Last year was my first time.
Oh, so Seaport Village is the little village outside the convention center, right by the bay. So we were out there. My wife and I were dating, and just people walking across, a ton of people in costumes, and then we see this short dude talking over there, and then I'm like, that's Mark Hamill. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, that's Mark Hamill. I'm gonna go up to him, and so, and this was 90 something, so this was many years after Star Wars and before they started to do the other movies. So now
it must have been like when he was doing like the voice of the Joker on Batman.
The Joker, and so we'll go up to him and talk to him like, Mr. Hamill, this is an honor to meet you. Hey guys, how are you? He was such a cool guy. So he was promoting his comic book at that time.
I remember that comic.
Yeah. So this was
that is so cool.
This is like the promotion for the comic. The Black Pearl. So this was his, and so he's got it signed right there. So I still have
dude,
like 20 something years. I probably should put it like but I just like looking at it, like it's cool.
Dude, you can't see it, but like I've got the first ever commission I ever had. It wasn't a commission, it was just a sketch. The first ever comic show I went to.
Cool.
In Bangor, Maine in 1992. Was NostalgiaCon, it was called. And yeah, and it was put on by my local comic shop, and he was kind of a comic book. His name was Bruce Webster, and he was kind of a comic book insider guy. Like he was one of like the retailers that they always ask questions of, and there was like a rumor that he was like in the DC top 50 retailers, like little sub circle that they'd check in with and see what they felt about things. But so I got to grow up in middle school going to his shop, and he became like a formative figure for me in a lot of ways, some of which I learned, like, how do I not want to navigate life? Perhaps not like Bruce. But he gave us a space to be nerds, and really like gave us opportunity. And so I've got my first ever this artist named Kelly Jones, who did a lot of Sandman comics and a lot of Batman stuff, but he also did an Aliens comic. So I have an alien xenomorph head by him up on my wall that I got that day, and a Walt Simonson Colossus and a few other pieces. But just in thinking a little bit about this week and things that have gone on, the other really formative experience that going to NostalgiaCon gave me, and growing up, starting to read comics in the 90s gave me in general, was there was an imprint from DC Comics called Milestone. And Milestone was all created. It was the brainchild of Dennis Cowan and Dwayne McDuffie, who are both African-American comic creators who had they were veterans at the time. They'd already done a ton of work, both of them. And they started this imprint that featured almost not exclusively, but it featured mostly artists of color, mostly writers of color, and they had this line of comics, including the most famous character that came out of it was a character called Static that became like a Saturday morning cartoon called Static Shock eventually, right? But he was just called Static, and like the cover of the first issue is Static, this kid wearing this skinny looking kid, long and lean, wearing this kind of trench coat jacket and a Malcolm X hat, and his whole thing was electricity, and it read like the comic read like Spider-Man, like early Spider-Man.
Okay,
like
cool.
this like teenage kid trying to figure life out.
Mhm.
And I got to meet at that show one of those like it was this was
cool.
would have been like fall of '94.
Okay.
I got to meet all of the creators of all the Milestone books, all came to NostalgiaCon. And I think that's how we knew that Bruce like had an inside track. It was like all the people who created all the Superman comics and all the people who created all the Milestone comics all came to the show. So it was like 18 creators in Bangor, Maine.
Wow.
Which was kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
But then like I got to work at the show as like a runner and a helper. And then I got invited to the little like after show party to hang out. And we watched Lois and Clark in the hotel lobby with the guy, with the creator of the original creator of the Golden Age Green Lantern, this guy named Marty Nodell, who was just this wonderful old man who's just was so kind and generous and nice. But then we got to hang out with all these other folks. And for a kid growing up in Bangor, Maine, who knew 4 people of color, suddenly like I'm sitting there with all these people from all these backgrounds that were new to me. And we're just talking stuff. And it just like, that was a really formative experience for me. And kind of like, cause I was not the most conscious kid at the time at all. And I still have a long ways to go and it's always will, but it was like, I wasn't ignorant, but you know, I learned everything I knew. I learned from watching The Real World on MTV. That was pretty much what I knew. If they hadn't talked about it on The Real World, I wasn't aware.
That's hilarious.
So that's where I learned about LGBTQ. Is where I learned about race relations. It's where MTV taught me just about everything I knew.
Oh my gosh!
In the early '90s, which
man,
there was some good.
Yeah.
I learned there were some gaps as I found out in college that maybe I had some more work to do. Maybe. But it was that experience and being around those comic creators. It was a great thing for a kid.
Oh man, well, definitely probably a huge push for you to just really enjoy and have passion for that.
Well, have passion for it, but also realize like, wow, there's different points of view that go into making this stuff, right? And not and really starting to appreciate different forms of art.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because at the time, the only thing I thought was cool were all these like big muscle, like they have to have giant muscles and it needs to all look like basically a Jim Lee drawing or a Rob Liefeld drawing. And if it wasn't one of those two things, it probably kind of sucked, you know, or John Byrne maybe like was the house style that could kind of accept like George Perez and a few others. But like I knew what I liked and seeing those books drawn in totally different styles was like, whoa, Dennis Cowan, like totally different art style from what those other guys did. And it just gave me this appreciation and perspective that that kind of like it stays with me. And you kind of forget about sometimes, but then it's like, oh yeah, that changed everything for me.
That's so cool. Well, man, I don't want to keep you too long. This has been so
great,
fun.
Man.
It's so fun, but so I try to ask everyone before we go is like I'm gonna change up the questions for you though, because I'm gonna ask this and not to try to start a controversy, but so are you a DC or a Marvel?
Oh, DC or Marvel?
Yeah.
Ooh. It all depends on the time. Like it all depends on when. You know, if you go 90s, I'm gonna go Marvel. If you're gonna go right now, I'm probably going Marvel.
Okay.
But I like them for totally different. But I'm like, there's equal amounts behind me. Like these shelves, you can't see them.
Yeah.
But it's just comics as far as the eye can see, and it's all different stuff, man. But like it's I go where the stories are the best. And a couple of years ago, DC was where all the stories were the best. But right now, I'm really loving the X-Men.
Okay, cool.
Right now, like I'm really loving what's happening over there with Jonathan Hickman. And then so it's DC Marvel. But generally, I think the Marvel characters are more human. But I think the DC universe is more interesting.
Okay, cool. That's a cool answer. So, which one was your favorite movie?
Oh, of Star Wars?
Or okay, maybe
or in general.
Maybe in general, which is going to be probably much harder.
No, so my all-time favorite movie is so this isn't my favorite film. Okay. This is just like the movie that like never breaks my heart.
Okay.
Like I can always turn it on and watch it, and it just brings me endless amount of joy. Top Gun is darn close to beating it out, but it's Red Dawn because I was a child of the 80s.
Yeah, Red Dawn.
Right. So in my brain, I still have to push out that all Russians aren't the enemy.
Yeah.
And that if if people parachute onto my football field, that doesn't mean they're going to start shooting at me.
Yeah.
But the 1984 classic or 85 classic, Red Dawn, the first PG-13 film, I believe, it was Dreamscape. One of those two was the first, but Patrick Swayze running into the woods.
Yes. The Wolverines, right?
Wolverines.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie. And it's got flaws. It's deeply flawed. I mean, there's so much wrong with that movie. So like we could just do a whole 2 hours on everything that's wrong with that. But that movie, like every time I watch it, I'm just like,
that's cool.
It's so good.
That's cool. Hey, if for folks that want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You can find me. The easiest way to find me is on Twitter at Wicked Decent. And that's the fastest and easiest way to get a hold of me. And then you can visit danryder207.com. That's the area code for Maine. We've got so few people. We only have one area code.
Oh, wow.
Still holding strong to just the single 207. But yeah, you can find you can find contact info for me on there. You can see my other social. I'm on Instagram at Wicked Decent as well. But yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I love talking creativity. Man, I love talking creation.
Man, we can. I mean, I know we can go for hours chatting with this. This would be one of my dreams.
This is awesome, man. This is so much
one of my dreams, and that would be for the show like this. Is if I can at some point be live somewhere, like I would love to get an actual like little lounge chair. I'm gonna see that little lounge chair that I have, kind of, and just have like conversations. You know what? Almost reminds me. It makes me think of Ghostbusters when Bill Murray was interviewing the guy, the psychic guy, and it's like, welcome to my show, and then like almost that type of setting, but but having conversations, talking about creativity and just chatting about.
I didn't know you give me electric shocks. It's science, man.
Oh man! But hey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you, my friend. Thank you for inviting me.
I don't know when we'll get to see each other again, but I hopefully soon,
man. I hope soon.
Yeah, man, this has been a blast. And for those of you who were joining and stuck with us through the whole time, so thank you so much for staying with us. And I've just saw some messages here. Love the talk, love this talk, man. Love the happiness and joy and fun. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. And check out my other YouTube videos. If you could check me out on iamclaudius.com, but also Claudio Zavala Jr. pretty much everywhere. So hey guys, have a great day, and I always say be good to one another and take care. See you soon, man. Let me
thank you, my friend.